Before we get into this, viewer discretion is strongly advised. What you're about to hear isn't just a celebrity rumor. It's sworn courtroom testimony from the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. This is all real, all documented, and the moment that had the entire courtroom holding its breath, Jay-Z walked in, not as a guest, not as a witness, but as a man pulled directly into the heart of one of the biggest scandals in music history, and not just to answer questions, but to defend his name, his legacy, and his family. The courtroom had already been buzzing. There'd been months of leaks, whispers, and headlines tying Jay-Z's name to Diddy's crumbling empire, freak-off parties, sealed NDAs, and disturbing allegations being read aloud under oath. Until now, Jay had remained silent. No statement, no tweets, just silence. But the silence was over. The day started like any other trial day. Long arguments, paperwork, legal back and forth. Prosecutors were preparing to reintroduce evidence tied to Cassie Ventura's testimony. Diddy's lawyers looked relaxed, maybe even bored. They shuffled documents like they'd seen it all before. But then the doors opened, not softly, not discreetly. They opened with force, and standing there, Jay-Z. No advance notice, no media leaks, not listed as a witness, not expected by the press. He walked in wearing a midnight navy suit that looked so sharp it could have doubled as armor. There was no entourage, no Beyoncé, no Rock Nation team, just him, alone, and he didn't look left, didn't nod, didn't acknowledge anyone. He moved like a man who knew what was coming and was ready to face it head-on. People in the gallery stood up without realizing. A journalist gasped so loudly her pen slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Cassie, sitting behind the prosecution table, leaned in and whispered something into her attorney's ear. Even the judge, known for her icy composure, arched a brow in surprise. And Diddy, he turned, locked eyes with Jay, and froze like he was seeing a ghost. A ghost with 20 years of unspoken history standing in the doorway, about to speak on things no one thought would ever come to light. This wasn't staged. This wasn't for optics. Jay-Z had requested a sealed session for his testimony, but the judge overruled it, said the public deserved transparency. And now Jay was about to give the performance of his life. Not with bars, not with bravado, but with memory. He approached the stand slowly, took the oath, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. And the room, packed with prosecutors, music reporters, and lawyers who had once shared five-figure brunch tabs with these men, suddenly they were all sitting straight, still, listening like it was the first line of an unreleased verse they weren't supposed to hear. Jay's voice was calm, but controlled, tight, measured, like a rope stretched between two cliffs. Then he began. I want to make it clear. I came here because silence ain't an option no more. And just like that, everything changed. Because this wasn't the rapper. This wasn't the billionaire. This was Sean Carter, a man stripped of all the headlines and awards, standing before a jury not to protect an image, but to reclaim the truth. And he didn't open with denials. He didn't play victim. He came with something more dangerous. Context, yes, he said. I was invited to Diddy's events. Yes, I went. But what I saw and what I was told those events were two very different things. The room leaned in. Diddy's lawyers stiffened. Jay's own legal team looked locked in, but slightly tense, unsure where this was headed. Was he about to help the defense or bury it? He kept going. I saw the setups, the NDAs, the confiscated phones, the back rooms, the curtains. I never went in those rooms. I never signed those papers, but I knew. He stopped. I knew something wasn't right, the gallery gasped, because that line wasn't just about being present. It was about witnessing the system, the same system that Cassie, Dawn Richard, and others described, a machine that turned parties into pipelines. Then Jay turned toward the jury. You see, in this industry there are parties, and then there are parties. He paused. Let it sink in. The ones I was at, the ones I eventually stopped showing up to, those weren't about fun. They were about power. They were controlled experiences. The prosecution asked, did you witness anything illegal? Jay paused, his jaw tightened. No, not directly, but I saw enough to know I didn't belong there. Then he dropped a story. Back in 2015, a party in Miami, supposedly for Christian Combs' birthday. They had masks, he said. Real masks, not costume store stuff. One man walked past me in full leather, nothing else but high heels. People laughed. I didn't, because I could see it in his eyes. That man looked scared. He said he left early that night, didn't wait for the arranged driver, called his own. I didn't want my name attached to whatever that was. Then the prosecution dropped a photo, a leaked blurry image, but authenticated Jay-Z, Diddy, Beyoncé, LeBron James, and a man in a latex mask, kneeling on a velvet pillow. Jay stared at it, took a breath. I saw that moment. I remember it. I was told it was performance art. I didn't laugh. I didn't stay. Then he turned toward Diddy. Cold. You knew people trusted you, and you used that. For the first time, Diddy flinched. His jaw dropped just for a second, and Jay kept going. He talked about a private conversation from 2018, right after rumors started flying about Diddy, stuff bubbling just under the surface. Diddy called him, Jay said, tried to get ahead of the wave. They're coming for me, Diddy said. You gotta be careful who you stand next to. Jay said he asked him point blank, did you do anything I can't come back from? And Diddy replied, it's just parties, Jay, just experiences. Nobody gets hurt unless they want to. Jay's voice cracked slightly. That was the last real conversation we had. I stopped picking up his calls after that. From there, Jay said he made changes. He skipped revolt events, backed out of deals, told Rock Nation, keep us far away from whatever Puffs got going. Then the prosecution showed something new, an email chain between Jay's legal team and someone anonymous, dated early 2020. It warned that NDAs from past events might be used against anyone who had ever attended, even if they weren't involved in anything illegal. Jay nodded. I knew what that meant. They were going to use silence like a shield, and I wasn't going to be caught behind it. Then he gave the line that would blow up across every headline before the court even recessed. He used to be my brother, but now I see who he really was, and who I almost became, just by standing too close. The room was stone silent, and that was just the first part of Jay-Z's testimony. The room hadn't fully recovered from what Jay just said. He used to be my brother, and who I almost became, but Jay wasn't done, not even close. He leaned forward in the witness chair, folded his hands, not like a mogul or a rapper, but like a man who had nothing left to protect except his family. I need to speak about my family, he said, because when my name gets dragged through the mud, so does theirs. And suddenly the energy shifted. This wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't about image. This was about his wife, his daughter, his legacy. The entire jury leaned in. Reporters stopped typing. Even Diddy, who had been scribbling furiously on a notepad most of the morning, finally looked up. Jay took a breath. Not shaky, just heavy. Blue Ivy's old enough to read headlines now, he said. She came to me asking what a freak-off was. That's not something a father should ever have to explain. The room froze, and in that pause, that moment of stillness, it became painfully clear that this wasn't just another PR cleanup. This wasn't an artist spinning a scandal. This was a father caught in a storm he didn't start, but now had to survive. He continued, voice steady but laced with something deeper, sorrow. After that lawsuit dropped, paparazzi started camping outside our house. Reporters showed up outside Blue's school. Headlines blurred the truth. Facts got twisted. And suddenly, my life wasn't a home. It was a headline. He glanced toward the gallery. My wife has stood by me through everything. Career beefs, business drama, public scrutiny. But this wasn't about competition. This was a nuclear bomb dropped on our family. Then came one of the biggest allegations swirling online, the one tying both him and Beyoncé to the infamous 2015 Miami freak-off party, and Jay came loaded. He reached under the desk and pulled out a folder, thick, tabbed, and color-coded. We were in Paris that weekend, he said. It was our anniversary. We stayed at Hotel Plaza Athénée. I've got the flight records, hotel receipts, security logs, video timestamps, photos, multiple eyewitness accounts. He held up a printed image. Him and Beyoncé, arms wrapped around each other, Eiffel Tower in the background. We weren't there, not even close. The prosecution reviewed the documents, the court clerk verified every page, and the judge nodded quietly, acknowledging that the records were valid. But Jay wasn't done. This isn't just about proving I wasn't at some party. It's about what happens when lies get louder than facts. He paused, his tone sharpened. I've spent decades building something clean, something that lifts our people, that creates opportunity, that shows kids from Marcy projects they can be something more. He shook his head, and in one headline, with no evidence, it gets smeared. He made sure the jury was looking directly at him. This wasn't bravado, it was truth. Raw and controlled, he continued, I didn't lean on Beyoncé's fame in this moment. I leaned on her strength. She's not just a celebrity, she's a woman, a mother, and this hit her the way it hit me, sideways, unexpected, undeserved. He then addressed the culture of clickbait, how gossip sites and lazy journalists pushed half-truths and wild claims because they knew people would click. When did we stop demanding proof? He asked. When did an accusation become a conviction? He pointed directly at the prosecution table, not aggressively but with clarity. If you're going to drag me into a case this massive, with stakes this high, you better come with more than rumors. You better come with more than he was seen once at a brunch. The next allegation, that he had attended a freak-off-style party hosted at Gloria and Emilio Estefan's mansion. Jay didn't wait. I want to be very clear, he said. I have never in my entire life been to a party at Gloria Estefan's house, not in Miami, not anywhere. He unfolded another set of documents. This time, it was a full timeline, covering his activities from the entire week of the alleged party security detail logs, transportation manifests, event programs, even dinner menus. On the night they say I was in Miami, I was in Los Angeles, attending a Sean Carter Foundation charity dinner at the Peterson Automotive Museum. He showed the speech transcript from that night, the guest list, and a photo of him with the mayor. The prosecution reviewed it all. The clerk verified the museum's security logs, Jay's entry and exit recorded to the exact minute. The evidence was ironclad, but Jay didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. He just looked tired, like a man who had to prove the obvious to people who should have known better. Then he turned his attention to the source of it all, the machine that spreads rumors. It didn't start with a witness, he said. No one came forward and said, I saw Jay at that party. It started because I used to stand next to Puff in public. He shook his head, frustrated. I once went to a brunch, so now I'm complicit in trafficking. I once posed for a photo, so now I'm guilty by proximity. He pulled out a media report, one of dozens that ran with the same story. They printed it without proof, didn't call my team, didn't verify, and just like that, thousands of tweets, hundreds of thousands of likes, millions of views. He passed the article to the jury, and here I am, forced to prove a negative. Then he turned one last time toward the judge and prosecution. If you're going to call me to this courtroom, if you're going to attach my name to crimes this serious, you need more than gossip and guesses. The room was completely silent. Jay adjusted his mic, sat back, but his voice still carried, calm, unshaken. I'm here to tell the truth, because my name isn't just mine. It belongs to my wife, to my daughter, to my community, and I won't let it be erased by headlines. The jury was locked in, even the alternates. No one looked away, but what came next would take things from personal to paranoid. By this point, Jay-Z had already dismantled every accusation tied to physical evidence. The Miami freak-off, debunked. The Gloria Estefan mansion, shut down. Paris anniversary receipts, verified. Security logs, time-stamped. Media lies, exposed. But now, it was time to face something harder to fight, the internet. The next part of his testimony wasn't just about defending facts. It was about defending against fiction, the kind that spreads faster than truth and cuts deeper, and than rumors. Jay sat up straight, his tone shifting. Sharper now, more alert. I've been called a lot of things in this industry, he said, but Illuminati puppet, Murderer by association. That's a new one. He wasn't joking. He pulled out printouts, pages of Reddit threads, TikTok slideshows, YouTube thumbnails with his face photoshopped next to Epstein, R. Kelly, even Aaliyah's name in the title. He held one up for the court. This is what passes for journalism. Now, no one laughed. He turned serious. There are people online who think I helped kill Michael Jackson, that I orchestrated Tupac's death, that I paid off women to keep quiet about Diddy's parties. None of that has a shred of proof. But it gets repeated because it sells. He laid the papers down, heavy. It doesn't just affect me. It affects my family, my business partners, my staff. I've had relatives followed, contracts pulled, even death threats, because someone on the internet thought a triangle in my music video meant I was part of a cult. The courtroom stayed silent. No one shuffled. No one coughed. Then Jay did something no one expected. He admitted what most celebrities won't. I didn't speak up sooner, he said. I thought the truth would be obvious. I figured, eventually, people would look around and say, that's ridiculous. But maybe I underestimated how fast lies can travel when they've got slick editing and eerie music in the background. He glanced at the jury, and maybe that's on me. Then he raised his voice just slightly. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to listen, to think, to demand proof. Because if we don't draw the line here today, none of us are safe from what comes next. He sat back. Done. But the prosecution? They weren't. A new figure approached the stand. The lead federal litigator, the one people had been whispering about all week. He was known for breaking down even the most well-rehearsed celebrities. He stood in front of Jay, adjusted his glasses, and went in. Mr. Carter, he said, you've presented a compelling defense, records, documents, testimony, but you've also admitted you attended Diddy's events for years. High-profile ones, award parties, brunches, galas. That's correct? Jay nodded calmly. Yes, industry events, public events, but not the kind of parties being described here. The prosecutor paced slowly. Did you ever witness anything inappropriate at these events? Jay was still. Not for long, he said, but enough for everyone to notice. He paused. No, I saw people networking, music playing, the usual. The prosecutor pressed harder. Did you ever see Cassie Ventura at these events? Jay's jaw locked. She was Diddy's partner. He said, she was present often, but I never saw her distressed. I never saw anything close to what she's described in her testimony. The prosecutor nodded slowly. Then, so now that you've heard her describe abuse, coercion, freak-offs, you're saying you're completely blindsided? Jay didn't flinch. I'm saying I didn't see it, and if I had, I wouldn't have stayed quiet. Then came the curveball. The prosecutor said it low, but loud enough. That's what Russell Simmons said too, gasps. Instantly, even Jay blinked. His first real break in composure all day. His attorney leapt to his feet. Objection! The judge's voice cut in sharp. Sustained, but the damage was done. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Did Jay really not know? Or was this all calculated distance? The prosecutor kept going. Subtly, not overtly, floating the idea that Jay-Z had been close enough to Diddy to see something, to hear something, to maybe even know. No direct accusation, just shadows, and the jury split, some looking doubtful, others sympathetic. Finally, Jay-Z leaned forward and gave his last word on the stand. I'm not here to protect Diddy. I'm here to protect my name. And if I was part of that world, if I even suspected it, I wouldn't be testifying. I'd be the one on trial. With that, he stepped down, straightened his jacket, gave a quiet nod to the judge, and walked through the side door, alone. No Beyoncé beside him, but her presence. It was felt in every stare. The room stayed buzzing. Spectators whispered, reporters typed. Court sketch artists scribbled fast. Some were Team Jay-Z. He brought proof. He defended his family. What more do you want? Others weren't buying it. He's just saving face. He's been in that world forever, and somewhere in the middle, the truth. Still cloudy. Still contested. One former bad boy intern, now a courtroom observer, was seen wiping tears. She whispered to a reporter during recess. He talked like he didn't know, but we saw him at those parties. Maybe he didn't see what we saw. Or maybe he just looked away. Cassie Ventura sat still at her attorney's table, didn't react once during Jay's testimony. Except for one moment when he mentioned Blue Ivy. She looked up, not with sympathy, but with a question. Was he protecting his family or protecting himself? Even Diddy looked shaken, not because of betrayal, but because it was confirmation. The ship was sinking, and Jay-Z. He'd already grabbed his lifeboat. The judge called a brief recess. The hallway exploded in voices, debate, defensiveness, doubt, and inside Rock Nation HQ, silence, no official statement. Just a short line from Jay's attorney, Alex Spiro. Mr. Carter testified truthfully and courageously. We stand by his integrity. But outside the courtroom, the world wasn't waiting. Within hours, headlines took over. Jay-Z breaks silence in Diddy trial. Jay versus prosecution, courtroom clash. Jay-Z defends Beyoncé and Blue Ivy from scandal fallout. Social media exploded. Beyoncé trended worldwide for 36 hours. Her team declined to comment. And then came the trolling. Scent, never one to stay quiet, posted a photo of Jay on the stand with the caption, "Nice performance, but we ain't forgot them brunches, my guy." It went viral in minutes. Other celebs followed suit. Alicia Keys posted a quote about truth-breaking silence. Questlove tweeted emojis. Even Oprah posted something vague about building from ashes. Jay's testimony hadn't shattered the case, but it had complicated it. He had distanced himself, protected his family, redirected the heat. But in doing so, he exposed the real issue, plausible deniability, the Hollywood art of saying "I didn't know" until it's too late. The DA released a subtle statement. Mr. Carter's testimony was significant, but our investigation continues, and it extends beyond any one individual. Translation, this isn't over, because this courtroom isn't just trying Diddy anymore. It's trying an era of fame, of proximity, of protection. Jay-Z had survived. The stand, but the real trial, the trial of legacy that had only just begun.